It's time for the Meet the Robinsons review for the Wii. Even though this game has the same title as the movie, this game isn't a playthrough of the movie, but a prequel to it. Now that doesn't mean you don't have to see the movie to understand this game. You will appreciate and understand the game much more if you've seen the movie prior to playing this game. I'm not exactly sure of how much to say about the story, since saying too much could spoil the movie for those who haven't seen it. All I'll say is that you play as Wilbur Robinson, and you have to save the future, which is his present, by going to the past, which could in fact be our present. You will also help save the world in Wilbur's present time too, which is the future. This is an adventure action game. You'll go through and complete puzzles as well as fend off enemies using special gadgets that you have to build yourself. You can find the pieces for each gadget in random objects lying around in just about every area of each level. Most of the parts aren't specific, just 3 different shaped objects that you have to acquire X amount of. The first gadget you build is a scanner. Every gadget you build or receive play a part throughout the whole game, meaning the early gadgets don't become obsolete later on in the game. To use the gadgets, you can press either the right, left, or up button on the D-pad, or if you have a gadget selected, you can press the B button. You will use the reticle via the Wiimote to aim where you want to shoot, but it doesn't always shoot where you point at. You have to make Wilbur look in the general direction of where you want to shoot, which makes the game more realistic, but can also make it frustrating. Sometimes, even when you're looking in the correct direction, the projectile will still not hit your targets, or you'll have to aim dead center with the reticle, not a pixel off, or both to hit your target, which becomes unbelievably frustrating. There are many puzzles in each level. Some are easy to figure out, and some can really try your patience. There's an overall nice level of difficulty for the puzzles in the whole game. Sometimes the platforming part of the game will switch to more of a minigame mode, either in the form of a game called Charge Ball, or in this mode, where Wilbur must follow a linear path while in it's basically a human hamster ball. The charge ball sections are fun, but sometimes can be very difficult. The point is to knock down all of your opponent's blocks with the charge ball, then launch one into their goal. The problems that make it so difficult are that it can be quite tricky to aim where you want to throw the ball, and also the AI rarely, if ever, messes up. So it's fun, but only after you figured out how Wilbur aims the ball. The Protectosphere, or human hamster ball sections of the game are a lot of fun. It can be quite challenging, as you can fall off the path with ease, but it's still very fun. Reminds me of Super Monkey Ball. The biggest problem with the game is by far the camera, and that's because you have to control it the whole time you're playing. Now that doesn't sound so bad, does it? Well, it is. The main problem is that the camera is not fixed behind Wilbur's back. It is fixed behind Wilbur, but not his back. This makes it so that the camera does not follow your movements. If you move to the left or right, you have to manually move the camera to the left or right. To do this, move the reticle with the Wiimote to the edge of the screen. It's not hard to do, but it's the fact that you constantly and always have to move the camera. This makes it especially frustrating when you're being attacked by multiple enemies at once. Now you can press Z to lock onto a target, then move in relation with that target, which does help, but it's still a huge pain. I hate when I have to turn around. I usually have to manually turn the camera around 180 degrees, or sometimes I can turn Wilbur around and press Z, but that only works when there's a target behind him. Battling enemies isn't really difficult. In fact, most enemies are a little too easy to contend with. Except, however, when you're swamped by certain enemies, namely these robotic ants. Look at this! That is so not fair! I can't even get up! And even when I try to attack them, a lot of the times my attacks don't even hit them. Thank goodness you have unlimited lives and are able to restart in the level very near where you died. Otherwise, well, you get the idea. The graphics look good, although it's kind of hard to judge the graphics when I assume this is how it's supposed to look like because of the movie. They don't look bad at all, and in some areas they look great because of the detail. Nothing looks grainy, not even with the cutscenes, comparing it to Astro Boy the video game. The controls work very well. Even though controlling the camera is a pain, it's not hard to control it. Move with the analog stick and the nunchuck, use the D-pad to use your gadgets, and the minus button to switch between gadgets. The only complaint I have with the controls is that they can be very awkward to work with in the beginning, mainly when switching between gadgets. Other than that, they work great. The game has some pretty funny cutscenes, with great voice acting from a handful of characters from the movie.
Carl, you're all wound up. Let's just calm down, take a breather, and watch the sunset.
The clouds are burning.
Try squinting.
The boss battles were fun for the most part, and challenging too. However, with this boss fight, it became so annoying. Why? It wasn't because it was too difficult, which it wasn't. It was because it took forever. I'm not going to spoil on how to defeat it, but if you ever battle against it, you'll probably see why it took so long to beat it. There are lots of extras to collect in the form of artwork, cutscenes, and action figures. You can also play Charge Ball against the computer anytime you want, although it was disappointing that you couldn't play against a friend. Meet the Robinsons is a pretty fun game. Good graphics, great controls, the game is overall funny, it has a good challenge factor, the overall gameplay is fun, good boss battles, and it has a lot of extras to collect. However, the camera really diminishes the overall fun factor. Projectiles will sometimes not hit your target, which is really frustrating, and it's due to either not being precisely on your target with a reticle, or the projectile will just go off in a different direction totally, and there's a few glitches in the game, one in particular which made this boss fight last even longer than it needed to be. Overall, though, the game isn't bad. Sure, it can be very frustrating at times, but if you stick with it, you'll come to find that the overall gameplay is fun and actually pretty addicting, and worth playing it through to the end. This game gets a 3.5 out of 5 with the title of good.